this, I'll have to figure something else out, because then that means the live streams aren't going to work for the future. I think that they work sound-wise, but as for the like visuals, maybe not so much. Oh, okay, perfect. The quality is good, and the lighting makes it so cozy. Perfect. This is my Christmas tree. I know there's a little bit of a glare, but I still think it's cute. I got twinkly lights because I think twinkly lights are a bit more fun. Let's see if we can bring the microphone close to the leaves. This is a glittery ornament, and then down here we have a non-glitter one. Unfortunately, holding it with my thumb, you can hear my heartbeat. Oh well. I always like the sound of a Christmas tree. Okay, well, let's get started. So last time, someone asked me to flip through these books. And I am happy to oblige. So this is one book of, I believe, 4. I only have 3 of them right now, though. It's a really nice dark green color, and there's gold embellishments. There's the spine, so it's the cathedrals of England and Wales. There we go. And I like that the pages are golden. So pretty. And this book has a good old book smell. It smells like old books. I also like how crackly this book is. The spine is really nice. And I like opening it. Ooh. It's a little rough going for this book. Alright, let's move forward. And let's begin. So which one did I pick? I picked Volume 2, Section 1. And this is from the Public Library in Burnley. So, on the first page, we have Lichfield Cathedral from the Pool. I love the photographs. They're beautiful. Oh God, is my pipe about to start going? I think it might. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Lart, I believe. It's nice area. Hopefully you get to watch it later. So, this book's got a mixture of glossy pages, like this one. You can hear from the tapping noises. And it has the occasional tissue paper page. Oh, I like flipping these ones. And then it does have the occasional matte page. And these ones are quite thick because setting sun. Oh boy, setting sun shining across the severn light up the windows with a blaze of glory, as if it were illuminated within for some high festival. I'm gonna turn the microphone a little bit towards me. Let's keep going. If one's first impressions of Worcester are disappointing, there is compensation to be found in the riches of the interior, of which we shall speak presently, and in the wealth of memorable association which the church can boast. The town of Worcester, on a Roman road and beside a great river, naturally became the bishop's seat on the conversion of the Wigan province. The city was formed in 1680 with Tetworth, a monk from Whitby, for the first bishop, but he died before he could be consecrated and gave place to Boswell, also a monk from St. Hilda's Abbey, the first rood church dedicated to St. Peter. We're going to turn the gain down just a little bit because the pipe in my background is banging quite loudly. You'll have to forgive it. Oh boy. Okay, we're gonna make it really quiet. Maybe that's too quiet. Just so the banging of the pipe isn't too crazy. Okay, let's get really cozy, alright? Was rebuilt. Sorry, let's go. The first rood church dedicated to St. Peter was rebuilt in the 10th century by St. Dustin's successor in the episcopate. Does anybody know what that word means? St. Oswald, who was a great patron of the monastic, as opposed to the secular clergy. Dedicated to St. Mary, the new church stood a little to the northeast of the present cathedral, and was for those days a stately building with 27 altars for the monks who were to supplant their less strictly monastic predecessors. St. Wulfstan, who was consecrated to the see in 1062 and was not displaced at the conquest, found Oswald's church in ruins. The handiwork of Hardigan's soldiers sent to chastise Worcester for rising against the ship tax. In 1084, he set to work upon a new cathedral. It is said that while witnessing the removal of the ruins of Oswald's church, St. Wulfstan burst into tears, declaring that he was pulling down the work of a man far holier than himself, a church which so many saints had served God. But another version makes him lament that he and his co-workers were neglecting the care of souls and laboring only to heap up stones, a reflection which breathes a very different spirit. Wulfstan's church was an unlucky one. It was greatly injured in a conflagration of 1113. The central tower fell in 1175, and the cathedral was again burnt, this time with the whole monastery, in 1202. By the year 1218, however, the church was restored or rebuilt, and was then rededicated with what? Here we go, here's a nice picture. And it says that this is the cathedral from the southwest. You can see it with the river. Rededicated with much pomp by Bishop Sylvester in honor of St. Mary, St. Peter, St. Oswald, and St. Wulfstan, in the presence of the young king, Henry III. The body of St. Wulfstan being transferred to its shrine near the high altar. Portions of this later Norman and traditional Norman building may still be seen in the nave, at the western end of the choir, and in the northern transept. Not yet had the cathedral exhausted its run of ill luck. In the year 1221, during a great storm, the two lesser towers fell. These, it is thought, may have flanked the choir, as at Canterbury, and thus have been injured in their fall, for the existing choir was begun in the year 1229. In the 14th century, the nave, except the two western bays, which are transitional Norman, was rebuilt. The earlier part dating from 1320, under Henry de Wakefield, whose episcopate lasted from 1376 to 1394. The choir and nave were vaulted. The tower was completed. The north porch was built, and the west entrance overlooking the river was closed up, and much other work was done. Alright, the pipe seems to have stopped banging around, so let's turn the game back up. When, at the Reformation, the priory was dissolved, the cathedral suffered little, except that in 1538 the shrines of St. Oswald and St. Wulfstan were destroyed, the relics being buried near the high altar. But in the wars of the Great Rebellion, much scathe was wrought here. First in the wars of the Great Rebellion, first by the followers of the Earl of Essex, and again after the Battle of Worcester, which Charles watched from the tower of the church until it was almost too late for him to escape capture. 5 years before this, in 1646, when the victorious parliamentarians entered the city after a long siege, they had acted with signal moderation, behaving indeed better than the garrison had done, for these satirist complaints had robbed and plundered without discipline or punishment, whereas the parliamentary soldiers behaved quietly, received their contribution, and were content, having among them good discipline. But now that final ruin had overtaken the Stuart cause, and there was all the more reason for moderation, Cromwell's men appeared to have abandoned themselves to the most unbridled license. The 6,000 royalists who were taken captive were penned within the cathedral, and one prefers not to imagine the scene it presented when thus debased to the uses of a dismally overcrowded gaol. After this, it was left severely alone, a melancholy monument of neglect until the Restoration, when once more the voice of prayer and praise was heard within its walls. Early in the 18th century, extensive repairs were undertaken and were followed by further renovations later in the same century. These including the rebuilding of the north end of the nave transept, the abolition of the ancient right-of-way through the church, the erection of the great flying buttress at the east end, the rebuilding the rebuilding of the east window, the restoration. Here, I'll show you guys. The restoration to which the interior of the church owes its sumptuousness was begun in 1857 by the Perkins, and the cathedral architect was continued after 1864 by Sir Gilbert Scott, and was not concluded until 1874. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading sideways. I'm gonna move you guys like this, a little less straight. So I know there's a couple new people here right now. This is the Cathedrals of England and Wales, so it's just a history of Worcester Cathedral. That's what's going on, and you can see it's really nice pictures. Alright, let's keep going. I'll move my phone. Since then, not a little has been done for the further enrichment of the church. The restoration it has undergone was certainly a drastic one, which did not shrink from the rebuilding of the east front in the early English style, for the sake of uniformity, and to some it may seem that the magnificence of the interior, its wealth of marbles, precious stones, and brasswork appeals to the senses rather than the ministers to one delight in ancient things. Those who feel thus must find such consolation as they can in the assurance of the Professor Willis that as far as the point can be determined, the cathedral now wears the aspect which it anciently presented, and in the knowledge that the wealth which has been lavished upon it represents a seal for the house of God, such as inspired those who first reared its walls. Traces of old Norman work are fewer and less vivid at Worcester than they would otherwise be, owing to the perishable nature of the stone. Striped layers, white and green, may be discerned as at Pisa and Siena. The hand of the Norman builder may be seen in the walls of the transepts, in the juncture of the north wall of the choir, with the tower in the western part of the choir, in the south corner of each western transept, where the circular staircase projects unusually into the cathedral, and elsewhere. The eastern arc of the north transept speaks his skill. A Norman shaft remains in the angle of the west end of the nave, and vestiges of the two Norman doorways surmounted by the west window inserted in 1830. But the crypt, approached by a staircase from the southern limb of the west transept, forms the most perfect relic of Bishop Wolfson's work. The pillars here are more slender than those of the sister crypts, and the arches, instead of being flattened into the ellipses, as at Winchester and Gloucester, are semicircular, so that the crypt in Professor Willis's words is a complex and beautiful temple, whereas those at Gloucester and Winchester appear as sepulchral builds. I cannot say that word. The cross views, though, through the maze of the Norman pillars, simple and unadorned, remind the traveled visitor of the mosque in Cordova. Alright, let's take a pause. I'm just reading the comments. Thank you from everybody. I'll do a separate live to answer questions about myself. How about that? Also, I'm having a hard time reading it. Number one, because of the angle of the book. And number two, because the style of writing is certainly less common now. It's academic, but I'm used to reading academic works. However, the cadence and tempo of the writing is really different to what I normally read. And it's certainly very posh and fancy, and just uses older vocabulary. So if I seem like I'm struggling, it's because I am. We must not omit to point out the variety of styles that's pervaded by remarkable unity of design. For instance, in the arches of the nave of the choir dating... let's start again. For instance, in the arches of the nave of the choir dating these from the 13th, those from the 14th century, the nave consists of 9 bays, in the 2 westernmost of which pointed arches are mixed with semicircular, like a pointed Norman doorway in the cloisters. They retain their Norman character without the Norman configuration. The eastern part of the nave is decorated. The middle part is decorated on the north, perpendicular on the south. The foliage of the piers is richer on the north side than on the south. In the 8th bay from the west end is Jesus' Chapel, which was open to the nave and about the middle of the 18th century, and has recently been restored and richly embellished. The pavement of the nave, black and white marble, the magnificent gift of the late Earl Dudley, is more suitable for Italian than Gothic architecture, second neck. Beautiful. It is the choir looking west. And the choir is exactly what it sounds like. It is where they sing and they like. Actually, you know what? I am not the authority on churches. I'm not religious. I've been in a church, like many churches, but just to look at, not to pray at. So don't ask me. I can't even. Let's just take a quick pause. I agree, there are some weird comments. That's okay. Just in case you're new here, the reason that I live stream is because I am a student and I have very poor Wi-Fi. And so if I try to upload a video from scratch, it doesn't do it. So it's either this or no video. So I apologize. But it's not a regular live stream, but that's okay. I'll do one separately, like I said. Let's keep going. The north limb of the west transept in two bays is Norman up to the clerestory, and above this point perpendicular, and the south limb is of the same general character. In the former is a melodramatic and incongruous monument by Rubelik of Bishop Hugh, whom a relief below the recumbent effigy shows as pleading with James II for the rights of Magdalen College, Oxford, of which that monarch had ejected him from the presidency. Passing through Scott's light screen of oak and open metalwork, we enter the graceful choir, which with the eastern transept and the Lady Chapel is early English begun in 1224, and ranks among the earliest specimens in England of the style which displays the ponderous architecture of Normandy. The choir in 5 bays is of the same height as the nave, but the triforium is shorter. In the Lady Chapel, the floor being lower, the shafts are taller, but the horizontal lines of the tiers of arches remain the same. The narrowness of the arches enhances the height. The eastern transept, like those of Clugny and the Saint Benoit Benedictine monasteries both, as where Worcester is unusually lofty. The gilt rings round the columns, which were added by Bishop Gifford in 1269, probably to hide the iron clamps which here, as at Peshawar, welded the stonework together, while the slighter columns begin to succumb under the pressure from above. The stalls and the missaries, with their quaint carvings, ecclesiastical or social in their meanings, are of the 14th century. The canopies are in the style of the Renaissance. The choir pulpit is a specimen of Jacobean architecture and was formerly in the nave. The bishop's throne of oak, richly carved, is modern, and also is the sumptuous reredos, which, executed by Messrs. Farmer and Brindley from Scott's design, was the gift of Ian Peel, brother of the great Sir Robert, and is to the memory of his wife. The Dean's own memorial of marble, inlaid with a large cross and with emblems of the evangelists, forms the back of the structure. In the middle of the choir is the most famous monument in the cathedral, the tomb of King John, now gorgeous with gilt. For in the restoration which ended in 1874, the commissioner sacrist of the name of Aldrich, and thought by Horace Walpole to be worthy of Cavalloni. The king is represented in royal robes, crowned. The right hand formerly held a scepter. The left grasped the handle of a sword, its point inserted into the mouth of a lion, on which the feet rest. The coffin itself, in the year 1797, was found beneath the tomb, level with the pavement and covered only with 2 elm boards. Part of the royal apparel, says Bloxham, was firm in texture, but the color was gone. Part of the sword and leather sheaths were lying on the left side of the body, but much moldered. The boots on the feet were more perfect. Part of one of the robes appeared to have been embroidered. The head was covered by a close-fitting skull cap, which appeared to have been buckled under the chin. A quantity of a sort of white paste, which lays in lumps, was, I think, the salt of which Matthew Paris speaks, used for preserving the body for a time. The tomb was shortly after closed. It is hardly to be doubted that the body of the king had been arrayed in the same apparel as that exhibited on his effigy. Alright, let's stop there. So, that was a little bit of the history of Worcester Cathedral. This book is quite large, you can see, and so reading from page to page is kind of awkward because you have sentences fitted in with images, so you have to jump around a little bit. That's that. I will check in with how this live stream went in a little bit, and then I think from the future onward, I might not do these anymore. I just think that it's a little confusing of a format because normally what happens is people get confused at the fact that it's supposed to be like a back and forth between the creator and the watchers, and that's true. That's what live streams are normally for, so you can like be there in real time. However, I just do it because it's hard to upload. So I'll see. Maybe I'll do a few more. Maybe I'll do a poll in a day or two or tonight and see what you guys think that I should do in the future. Also, I just realized that there are 2,000 of you. I think 2,070 of you, which is so fantastic. And I am so grateful that there are people that are enjoying this, even though I rarely post. I live in Canada, in Alberta right now, and we're kind of in like another lockdown. So I hope that wherever you are, you're able to see your family and you're able to be with someone who you love. And if not, I hope that you get to very, very soon. Alright, well, Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope that I'll be able to make another video soon. And, yeah, let me just do a quick browse through the comments and see if there's anything. Someone asked, is this the effigy of King John? I don't remember what page I was on. Hopefully I'll post the live stream and you'll be able to see. It's at Worcester. I don't remember. Honestly, it's very hard to focus on the sounds and then actually what you're reading at the same time. So